So today I'm going to be talking about my transition and how it went. And I was thinking about this, and I've told it in different ways depending on who I'm talking to over the years. But this is just going to be the rawest, most truthful, honest story. Because even though there's some parts in it that hurt me, I think it makes total sense, and it's the best way of telling any story, I guess. I'm not saying that I lied when I told other people. I just might have skewed the story a little bit sometimes. So I'm not going to tell you my whole life story, but essentially I was working at one of Australia's largest digital agencies and oldest digital agencies. And for me, it was my dream job. It was like, it was a place that I never thought I could get a job at. It was amazing working there. Like for me, I went from building websites by myself to working with just some of the most talented people that I'd ever met. And someone who ran the company was just like a superhero to me, and still is. And so I worked there for a year and a half, and I had kind of tried to work for myself before, but not really successfully. So one of my goals was to go and work at a massive agency like this and get some experience and see how the big boys do it. And after about a year of working there, it started creeping in. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's the idea of, what if I work for myself? And it starts creeping in. It might be someone talks to you at a barbecue. It might be you just looking at YouTube videos. But this idea just creeps in. And you start fantasizing about it and dreaming about it and going, how amazing would it be if I could work for myself? And then what happens, or this is what happened with me, is all these things start coming into your mind. Oh, I haven't got enough money. I've got a mortgage. I've got kids. And I didn't have kids at the time, but I did have a mortgage. And they all start creeping in, and then you go back to the safety net of getting your wage and safety in numbers and the herd mentality. So it's really, really tricky to go, I'm going to go work for myself, and I'm just going to have all these sales, and I'm going to have all these leads, and it's going to be fun, and I'm going to be able to have a coffee in Bali, and I'm going to live in Bali. It's some of the fantasies that get pushed out there. And some of them are actually real as well. But in order to have a fully successful business, you need to focus on it full time. So it's really tricky to work at a company full time or part time and run your own company as well, because it needs your full focus. You can't just dabble in it. So the idea started creeping into my head. What if I could do this? What if I couldn't do this? And I think I had a pretty easy transition because there was a couple of things that happened that made it a lot easier for me to get. When I say easier, I'll tell you why in a second. My skill set is in sales and web design and account management. And my job at this agency was account management. So I do a little bit of web stuff, but mainly it was talking to clients, managing issues, and helping around the office, really. I was doing stuff like moving chairs and things I really didn't want to do, but no one else was doing it. So I just, in my spare time, when I was actually at work, I'd help out with that stuff too, which was a little bit demeaning to me at the time, and it kind of also motivated me to leave my job as well. There's always things you hate about your job. Anyway, so I would talk to these clients. I'd also do internal calls as well sometimes, and there'd be people that would call up, and they'd be like, "Hi, I'd like to build a website. I've got this much money," and they had a minimum that they would do at this agency, and it was in the triple figures. So they pretty much wouldn't talk to people under a certain number, and that makes sense. When you get big enough, you can't deal with every client. So, so all these clients that wanted to work with this agency because it had such an amazing brand, we'd just tell them to go to other agencies, and I guess that was my opportunity. Because I wanted to start my own agency one day. These clients were too small for this big client, for this big agency. So I went and I had a good relationship with the owner there, and I approached him and I said, I've got these small clients calling up. Could I take some of them on? Could I do one of them? I'll do it on the weekends, I'll do it after work. And he said, yes. and I started taking on some clients from there. So it was a bit of a cheat in regards to like I was getting a bit of a sales funnel coming in from from this source. But I put myself in that position. I attracted that. I was there. So that started happening. Started doing those, and it got to a point where I was earning more money on the weekends and after work than I was in my day job. And what this did was it created even more tension around the idea of starting my own thing. So you start, your ego starts getting bigger, and you're like, "Whoa, I'm too good for here," all that kind of stuff. And it's a bit silly looking back on it. And I guess I wouldn't have been giving as much love to my role there. And I didn't even know it was that obvious, but the owner of the business obviously realized it. And so it got to a point where I had to sit down with the owner, and he's like, "Tim, obviously you're frustrated working here. What if you go and just start your own thing?" And I was like, nah, I want to keep working here. I've got my wage. I love coming into the city. It's a fancy part of Melbourne in the city, in Collins Street. I like the lifestyle that comes with it, and I want to stay here. Excuse me. And essentially, he said no. So the reason I said before that I'm telling the honest truth about this story is this part of the story, depending on who I would talk to, I'd be like, so I decided to transition and leave there and start my own agency. But the actual truth is, I pretty much got fired. He asked me to leave, and the story goes that I did leave, and the narrative around that was that Tim was going to start his own agency. So it was a nice little push that I needed. And he even said to me at the time when we were having the conversation, it was really raw. He's like, "Tim, I'm going to look back on this in 5 years' time, and it's going to be the best decision ever." And I think it has been about 5 years' time. And it actually was the best decision ever, because if he didn't push me and kept me there, that would have been the absolute worst thing for me. So for those who are thinking of starting their own agency, the easiest thing you can do is get fired. But if I was to go back and do it differently, looking at what I know now, it would have been a way more motivating thing if I had put my own foot down and made the decision earlier and went and jumped out and started my own agency. But I didn't, and that's the raw truth. So went home that night, told my partner Nicole, I said, I got fired. Well, I'm getting fired. I think I had 4 or 5 weeks to get my shit together. And the best thing in the world happened. My partner, Nicole, fully backed it and was like, all right. And she just went into like this mission mode. I remember that night we drove to IKEA and we bought a little chair like this, like a stand-up chair, so a sit-stand chair. And I'll find a photo and I'll put it in the resources. But essentially, I didn't have a desk at home, so I had like this cupboard, and I remember sitting at the cupboard and my knees would hit the cupboard. This is not a rags to riches story. It's just that's all I had at the time. And I remember I had my first day. But back to what I was saying, Nicole fully backed me. It's a big part of this. If you have a partner or someone who you share your life with, and is heavily involved in your life, you need their full support. If you haven't got their full support, this will all fall over. So whatever that takes for you to get that support, or for them to understand you need their support, is so critical. And for me, it was like the fire. It was the fuel in my fire that I needed, because that also told me that you've got this. You can actually do this, Tim. Nicole believes in you. Even your boss, even though he fired you, he believes in you. And most importantly, I believe in myself. And that took actually a while to really fully come into place. So, so I was working at this agency, pretty much got fired. Well, some people I told them I started my own agency, but got fired, started my own agency, and had my desk and my computer and my brain. And still had some leads. I had a couple of leads potentials that I could have gotten, but I literally had I reckon I had $800 in the bank account, and I had no retainers, nothing like that. So starting from scratch, And I remember sitting there on the first day, and I had this revelation of like, I don't work 9 to 5. I wake up and I have all this time in the day, and I get to choose what I do with that time. And what happens is you like magnify your time. So an hour is not an hour. Like when you work for someone, an hour is an hour. Like this is the hour, this is the hour. But you get to choose at what pace and what speed that hour goes when you work for yourself. And I remember sitting there going, like, my partner Nicole's going to get, I'm going to stop saying my partner. Nicole gets home at 5 o'clock. What am I going to do in between now and then? Like, what is the most important thing I could do? And for me, it was sales. And I'm like, and I would literally go, what can I do to get sales? What do I actually need to do? And the mindset was, I'm going to do whatever it takes, because the world is my oyster. I can do whatever I want. I can either train myself to be a better web designer. I can get better at communicating. I can go and network. I can just start, I don't know, get Google reviews, and then people will go, oh my God, I want to get a website built by Tim. All these things. But all I had was a laptop, an IKEA chair, and people that believed in me. And if you got those 3 things, you can smash it. So that was my transition. I hope that was, how long did this go for? 11 minutes? Not too bad. I'll see you in the next lecture.